Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the March 26th Government Affairs Committee meeting. We have more on Zoom than we have in person. Hopefully, as the weather breaks, we'll kind of turn that tide because it is good to have everybody here in person. This morning, we have with us Peter Milano. He's the Director of Strategy and Business Development for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And Peter's going to talk about some of the benefits that the state has and resources that the state has for businesses to help them grow. So, Peter, thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you very much. So nice to be here in the city that I was born in with some friends in the room, and I see a couple of friends on the screen. You tell me, am I good to go right now, Ryan, or should I hold off? I can do however you want. Yeah, I know how to do this, but yeah, no, I know how to do this, but I don't know what that.
I can't share it. Everybody can hear, right?
Yeah.
Do you want?
Christine is our technology person. She's not here today.
No, that's fine. I'm actually not that bad on technology, so I
got discounts.
Yeah,
We're good. All right.
okay. So I see some friends up on the screen and certainly some friends in the room here, but I was telling Ryan, this is a coming home of sorts for me, because when I started a long time ago, probably more years than some of the members have been alive, my first region that I worked in was the Northeast region, and one of the cities that I was assigned to was Lynn. And one of the chambers that I worked with in the cities that I covered was the city of Lynn, and I was on a couple of boards through this chamber. So I really do enjoy being back here. It's fun. I've been looking forward to this, and I do have some friends at City Hall, but none of them chose to come here and hang out with me. They chose to skip this and take the easy way out and just dial in. But that that's okay. That's, we deal with that. It happens. But really appreciate the partnership that we've experienced in this administration from the city. Really want to create some collaborations through the chamber, and might have to mute somebody on screen because I can see him lighting up, getting all ready to yell at me, but that's okay. Want to talk about, and by the way, I'm really good at keeping my spot in my whatever the thought was. If anybody has questions as I get through this shouldn't take too long. I can speed up, I can slow down, we can talk, we can go deeper into a program, we can go deeper into a thought. We can discuss anything that's important to your business, to your community. If you're a municipal or a government employee, I see Tom's on the screen, Tom Arsenault from the Congressman's office. Jim's here from the city, who we all obviously know and love. And then some, hopefully some business owners that may have some specific questions. We can talk about them in open session. You can grab me privately, whatever's best for all of you.
I apologize, I can't get the PDF, but we can send that out if somebody wants it later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll send it out for them.
Very shareable, yeah, this is a very shareable document. I told Ryan and Christine, I'm not a huge fan of working from slide decks, because I feel like then it's just me talking, and it becomes less, less of a conversation. So really just, dive in, interrupt me. If you want to use the raise hand feature, or you can just, scream over me. I'll get the message. I've broken it down into a few programmatic items. I'll talk about some of the things that as a state that we're doing. We have, through the administration, the Governor Healy, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll. My secretary is Eric Haley. He's only been with the administration for just under 6 months, so he's still getting his sea legs. We've been trying to accomplish as much as we can, still keeping in mind that some of the accomplishments that have been on the books for the last few years are becoming more and more difficult. What was I guess you would say easy 5, 6, 7 years ago is becoming very difficult now. Nothing more obvious than that is what all you have to do is pick up the business section of the Globe, the Herald, or the Boston Business Journal, and you see companies struggling, struggling to keep commitments that they once made, or unfortunately, you see some companies that are struggling so much that they're either going out of business, combining facilities, and we're fighting hard to combat that, and we can talk about that as well. So let's talk about where I work, right? I work for the Massachusetts Office of Business Development, which is housed, it's an executive branch agency. We are housed in the Executive Office of Economic Development. And if you follow the lineage, my boss's boss's boss is the governor. And what I always like to tell people about that is that there's not a lot of middle management. We can get stuff accomplished. If there's a challenge, if there's an issue, we have the ability to quickly effectuate change, I'd like to say. And through the Mass Office of Business Development, we have several programs that we own and we run. Our core deliverable, or I shouldn't say, I always use the word core deliverable, but the most dollars that we place on the street is through a program called the Economic Development Incentive Program. And we in government use acronyms, and I'll try not to, but the Economic Development Incentive Program, you may hear folks in government refer to it by its acronym or EDIP. That's a tax incentive program. That allows for the state to provide tax credits to companies that agree to place jobs into service and spend capital on their facility. And in exchange for those two commitments, in exchange for net new jobs and for CapEx, the state can provide tax credits that, if the company's profitable, will offset their business tax liability. If the state does not have a tax liability, then the tax credits can become refundable, which, just like on your personal tax returns, means that at the end of the year, when company does its tax returns, Commonwealth would cut the company a check. Additionally, the municipality, whether it's Lynn, Marblehead, Saugus, Swampscott, I don't know what other communities you cover. Is that all Lynn?
We have Revere. So, yeah, just the area around
Yeah.
there. Those are basically.
Yeah, so any of the communities that your companies may be located in may provide real estate tax relief as well. So that's the program. I ran through it quickly. There are some pieces to the program, but I'm happy to work with any of your companies if that is something that's of interest to you. We also have a smaller piece to this program called the Vacant Storefront Projects. The communities now need to apply for an apportionment of these tax credits. That is done through the Community One Stop for Growth. It's one time a year. And then after there is an apportionment or an allocation made to the communities, any storefront that has been vacant for 6 months, the community can award that storefront, or whomever the business is coming into that storefront, up to $50,000 in refundable tax credits. Interesting program. This is really good for small family businesses. It doesn't have to be, but generally that's what's been utilizing the program. Our team also, and this is a program that has not been broadly used, and we are really trying to push it. The National Guard tax credit. Any company that has 100 or fewer employees and employs either National Guard men or women, you are eligible for a $2,000 tax credit for simply employing that Guardsman or women. We'd love to get this money on the street. It's a very simple tax credit to access. It does require a little paperwork for the from the Guard, We have a relationship with the Adjutant General's office, so we can help with that. Real simple, 2-page document. It's on our website. Happy to help. I have a team that can work with any company that may have. If you have someone working for you that's from the National Guard or is a Guard, active Guards member, I urge you to reach out to me. There's money sitting there for you that we can really help you access quickly and easy. We have a program called Mass CEO, and it stands for Employee Ownership. And what the Center for Employee Ownership, that also is a Mass Office of Business Development program. By statute, I am the chair of that. I have delegated that to someone on my team. This, you may all have been aware, I'm pretty sure you've all heard the term silver tsunami. Many of the owners of our businesses are like me, getting a little older and contemplating what's going to happen with their businesses, whether they sell them outright to other operators or possibly just shut them down because there's nobody to take over, or what we're hoping is sell them to the employees. And an ESOP, an employee stock option plan, is one of these things that we're hoping can be an option, because that allows for continuity, that allows for the employees who've been working at these companies to continue to work and support their families. But more importantly, it's a way of building wealth, not just having a job, but these employees that have been building up this company for the owner now have a way of not just having a job, but they now are building wealth themselves. So we have a center that's there to help advise companies that may want to utilize these programs. And we'd love to chat if any of your businesses may find that interesting.
You're able to get funding for them or advise them?
Well, we don't have funding per se, but we are contemplating, I shouldn't say we're contemplating, we actually have an RFQ right now that closed. And we're going to, for any companies that may want to pursue this, we're going to provide grants for consultants to do the assessments for them. I don't know how many grants, it depends on where the RFQ numbers come back as to how many grants we can provide, but we will assist with some of the assessments. So those are the programs, programmatically, I should say, what we have that is an own product within the Mass Office of Business Development. Now, we're a very small agency. We only have 9 people currently. The woman who was the regional director who covered Lynn up until last week was Maria Nagro Di Stefano. She resigned from state service. Good for her, on great terms. I always tell people I'm not jealous of her, I'm envious of her. Because she's a couple of years younger than me, but she got to the point where she was able to move on from state service. Her and her husband felt like they were in a position where she could do this, and I'm happy for her. We're taking her out to dinner next Wednesday, and it'll be a big celebration in the North End. She's very Italian, so I mean that obviously had to be in the North End. So, but we also, as a secretariat, rolled out something in the last couple of years for all businesses to access state service. Not just through the Mass Office of Business Development, but through any of our partners. One of the things that each new administration needs to do by statute is a plan to operate for economic development purposes. So when the Haley Driscoll administration came into office, we knew that we had to develop this economic development plan. We hosted listening sessions all across the Commonwealth. And not surprisingly, one of the themes was really confusing in state government, especially for businesses, to figure out what their business needs to do. If their business wants to grow, who do they call? I think that my team does a great job, but we are actually 5 people interacting with businesses, now 4 with the retirement. So we have 5 client interacting employees. Simply not enough to cover 351 cities and towns. Even regardless of how hard they work, regardless of how many times they do interactions like this. And but I'll be honest with you, there of all 4 of them that we have left, plus myself, we're out 3 to 4 times a week, each of us, but it still doesn't multiply enough to hit the amount of businesses. There's about 750,000 businesses and entrepreneurs in Massachusetts. The numbers just don't work. So we needed to do something different. We needed to do something big, bold, and quite frankly, we needed to break the mold. Former Secretary Ron Howe had this thought that maybe, just maybe, we need to use technology more to our advantage. I thought we were ahead of the curve. We were using a CRM software product, Salesforce. And we were the first government agency to utilize that product. Back in 2003, we started using it. And it was really, earth shattering in the sense that we were following up, we were cataloging, we had knowledge management, so we had KM. If a person left, we knew where we stood. Generally speaking, we were doing a good job with technology, but we needed to do more. So through some listening sessions all across the state, we found out that it was just a real challenge for companies to access state services. If I want to find tax credits, many times they would find the Mass Office of Business Development. But what if they wanted a curb cut through Mass DOT and they needed tax credits and they also wanted financing, which was possibly 3 different state agencies? Then what? Well, that just became a little bit too much. Many times the business owner just threw their arms up and said, to hell with this. I'll just do it my own way, because that's what has always happened. What if we had a system that brought them in one spot, and instead of the business trying to figure this out, what if they came in and on the back end, we as the state, as government workers, figured it out for them and brought it back to their dashboard for the company. And that is how the business front door works. So in a very quick manner, a business registers for the business front door. It's www.mass.gov/BFD. You'll all be getting a copy of this deck. There's nothing proprietary in it. If you take longer than 3 minutes to register your company, you've done something wrong and you should call me or a team member and we'll get you unstuck. Once that happens, you tell us what your issue, challenge, or concern is, and you'll be sent through the system, and a navigator will be assigned to you. You have an issue where you need some consulting services, you need help with marketing your business, you need a business plan or business modeling. We have a team that can assist with that. You need financing. You want to build a new factory. You want equipment financing. We have a team that can assist with that. You're going to hire people and you want help recruiting. We have folks that can assist with that. But it's all different agencies. And you see that if doing this alone, it can be very frustrating. And oh, by the way, you're also running your businesses, which is how you pay the bills and how you take money home, feed your family, pay your mortgage, all that. So we will then do this research, have our meetings behind the scenes, and populate your dashboard so that we're doing this very clean, neat, and easy, and sending it back to you, the business owner, so that all you see is a clean and neat deliverable. And whomever your navigator decides to send back to you is going to contact you through our portal. And there may be at that point the need, and there will be, in fact, the need for contact, whether it's in person or through Teams, and you'll be able to move forward with a very deliberate person-to-person touch. And hopefully that'll move your business along in a quicker more efficient way, really.
So that can be used for someone that has a concept before they open and or someone that's gonna expand their business. It can go any stage of business growth.
One of the first questions that what you're gonna see when you get through the business front door is, I have a business, or I have an idea, or I am a consultant for a business, which could be a lawyer, a real estate agent, or other type of consultant. So you basically, you have you're a constituent business, you actually own a business, or you are an entrepreneur who's contemplating a business. All of those will bring you to different tracks.
Want to clarify that?
No, it's great. That's great. It's a perfect question, because that is a question that would, can they see this, or just?
They can't, unfortunately.
Okay, no worries, no worries. You're gonna get a copy of this deck, and I think it'll, what I'm saying should, actually, hopefully then, what I'm telling you in the deck should maybe create some more questions, and you can reach out to me, no doubt. We have pipeline meetings every Friday at 11 o'clock. And let me tell you that, in all the years I've been doing this, every economic development secretary, and they've been called a bunch of different things. They've been called commissioner, they've been called secretary, they've been called director. We currently have secretary of economic development. They've all tried to get these groups together at one point or another. We have this meeting 11 o'clock every Friday. Not necessarily the people who run the agencies, but the business development folks. People like my team, the team at Mass Development, the team at Mass Econ, the team at the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center. For the first time ever, the team at the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, Massachusetts International Trade and Investments, Mass Talent, which represents all of the labor and workforce development agencies. All of these folks come together at 11 o'clock every Friday. It's not an optional meeting. It's not a delegatable meeting. They come and they have the pipeline meeting, and every project that's active has a discussion. And obviously, if there's nothing that's hot about a project, we move over it quickly. But we make sure that every project that's in the pipeline that's of substance is moving properly. Is there an issue? Can we move it quicker? Is there something you need? How can we help? It has been incredibly effective. We've found that just by having this meeting, so probably 98% of the projects are moving without falling through cracks. We haven't had any issues whereby we're missing things because we're allowing things to chance. We don't have a single person saying, oh, gee, I forgot that. Because now we have multiple people who are on projects. So it's been an incredible change in the way we do economic development in the Commonwealth. And it should make for a better experience in the eyes of the business community. Smaller businesses, entrepreneurs, mostly are being sent to the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center. Their volume of customers is going up because they're also in our system. And that, there's no hesitation. They get the entrepreneur or business almost immediately because it comes to them right through the business front door. They don't have to wait for one of my team members or other team members to do an email introduction and hope that it gets there properly. It goes immediately through the system to the center. In our region, it's Salem State University, but there's 5 of them throughout the Commonwealth. I know I happen to be on that board. I know that it's working well for them. We also fund 50% of their budget. The other 50 comes from the federal government. So I see their numbers. I know their numbers are better than they've been basically ever. So, and that's with a few less people as well. So it seems to be working. And for many of the chambers that have a very high number of retail and smaller service related members, it's been a very positive development. So that's it. That's all I wanted to bring up about the business front door. These programs were all reformed through the Mass Leads Act. The Mass Leads Act was signed by Governor Healy in November of 2024. That also brought on board some changes with the VDIP program, which I already talked about, but the Mass Clean Energy Center and the Mass Life Sciences Center, both of those programs were, I would say, changed and, in my opinion, upgraded. And what that has done, and what I hope that this region sees, is increased spending in those two areas. Mass Clean Energy Center has $40 million in tax credits that it will put on the street annually. And the Life Sciences Center also has the same number of tax credits. The Massachusetts Office of Business Development, well, we have $30 million of refundable tax credits that we can award per year. So that's a substantial number in a 5-year bond authorization. So you see, we have money, we're looking to spend it, all tied to job creation. We want nothing more than to have companies in this area, in those industries, looking to site right here. I think it's just a perfect area. You have inventory in real estate, you have extraordinary talent, you've got colleges and universities very close, rapid transit. There's no reason why we could not have some very substantial wins here. And totally looking forward to working with all of you on some of your clients, some of your businesses. Maybe there's some sitting there just collecting some of these ideas, and I'd love to have those conversations with you. I'm going to pull up here because I just wanted to really bait a few of the items that we could talk about, and I really hope that there's some thoughts that I've provoked in folks on the screen or in the room. Tell me what you're upset with us about. Totally, I understand. I don't want you to tell me how rosy things are. Let me tell you, I know that this is a difficult time. We've had a decrease in money flowing in from Washington, D.C., which has created some challenges for us. But that's no excuse for anything that we do. We take everything personally. We want to continue with collaborating. So, as I said, I really don't want it to be all me talking. I want to hear what your members are thinking, what you're thinking, how we can work together. If you have any thoughts on programmatically how we can work together, move forward, I'm all ears.
I want to thank you for being here, Peter, and I know Maria was great before, and she fortunate to retire. But just opening that front door to the chamber and teaching us about business, the opportunities are there, so look forward to continuing working with you. We'll actually talk after the meeting. We have an event we'd like to invite you to over in Salem in May, so that will be
Salem in May is a lot of fun. So,
but Salem in October is a little different, right?
yeah, that probably would decline that one. Yeah, no doubt.
Anyone on Zoom have any questions or comments?
Yeah, Peter, I actually had two quick questions about some of the programs that you had mentioned. And these are kind of just like more niche and straight to the point. But for the employee ownership program, what is like the general size of like a company that tends to be interested in that? And what are some like hallmarks of a company that again tends to be interested in that?
So they can be any size. I think that the minimum size that we're seeing is 10 people plus. But the most popular one that recently converted to employee owned was Sullivan Tires.
Oh, okay.
And that's a big one. I think it was like, don't quote me on this, but for some reason, my recollection was it was like 1,700 employees. And the
Wow.
Sullivan family actually sold it to the employees. One that was very popular, ESOP, although recently, because of some expansion, because they purchased another brewery, it had to revert back, but the brewery in South Boston, now I'm forgetting the name. That's what happens when you start drinking beer. But there was a popular brewery in, help me, any of the younger folks. Harpoon was one of the more popular ESOPs.
I should have known that. I was gonna get Cisco, but that's
Yeah.
actually the Seaport. So,
Harpoon for years and years was one of the more popular employee-owned companies. But because they just, like last year or maybe 18 months ago, made a very large purchase of another brewery, they had to revert back to not employee-owned, just for the purposes of accessing capital. It would have been too much to actually pay out every individual and then have them pledge their stocks, something that I was informed by the guy who runs the program for me. He tried to explain to me why it couldn't remain an ESOP and purchase the brewery that they found to be an extraordinary growth opportunity.
I think they bought Long Trip.
Is that what it was?
Vermont, yeah.
Yeah, so because of that purchase, but they all had to vote to make the purchase. And it was overwhelmingly supported by obviously, because they're all, owners at that point. But they are no longer an ESOP. But for years and years, that was one of the companies that was held up as a model employee-owned company. And the guy, Dan Canary, who was the founder, he's still like the model owner who, took great care of his employees. They all are still operating the company as if they're owners. Everything about when there's an employee-owned company, every part of the company is just the facility, right down to the way that the rolling stock is treated. It's a proven fact how well everything's cared for.
Pride and ownership, right?
Was that?
Pride and ownership.
Pride and ownership, yeah. So they were talking, when I happened to be at one of the seminars, it was in Nashua, New Hampshire. In fact, it was last year this time in Nashua, and today our team is up in Nashua. At this year's, they run an annual event up in Nashua. And I happened to hear one of the speakers, and he was talking about, it was just something so simple, but we've never been low on oil on any of our rolling stock. First thing every one of our drivers does is pull the dipstick. Sounds so basic. It's supposed to be the protocol, but every one of our drivers, you look at them when they go out to their vehicles, that hood opens, dipstick comes out. Makes great logical sense, but
People don't even do that with cars.
now, I mean, you have to stop, it has to be your first protocol, but in an employee-owned company, that's the first thing that happens, everyone.
Great. And then I actually just had one more quick question about a program. When you were talking about the National Guard tax credit, you had mentioned that there was a lot of paperwork associated, I think, from the Guard. And my general question is just, is this tax credit per, I'm assuming it's per employee, but when it comes to the paperwork angle of it, is it like a one-time designation, like or is it required like per official Guard member?
So, Tom, I appreciate you. If I made it sound like it's a lot of paperwork from the Guard, I apologize, because it's not. It requires a form filled out from the Adjutant General's office. We can help with that, but it's not. It's just one form stating that they're an active member in good standing. But we have a great relationship with the Adjutant General's office. And you can apply for the credit twice with the same Guard member. So 1 year and then the second year, and then after that, the same member can no longer be claimed. And it's just such an easy credit to claim, and we're sort of shocked that it hasn't been more popular. When employees that hire Guard members do take a little bit of I don't want to call it a risk, but they have patience, because Guard members, A, can be deployed, especially in these times, but B, they may have some training challenges or absences that an employer needs to be patient with. So with that, the tax credit is just such an easy credit to acquire. And then we give you your certificate, you show it to the Department of Revenue when you do your taxes, and it's right there waiting for you to take it. My team will do everything with your taxes for you with this tax credit.
Any other questions? Peter, you talked about, businesses with, some of the things that they're struggling with. And right now, for a lot, it's energy costs. Are there places on your website through that, what was it? Front door?
Yeah.
Where people can get help or find resources to help them lower their energy costs?
That's unfortunately no, because we're a regulated state. There is not an economic development rate for power in Massachusetts. There are areas of Massachusetts that have a lower commercial power rate, and those are called municipal power and light.
Like a
Peabody, Reading. And it's unfortunate that they have the ability to provide power for less money than does National Grid or Eversource or Columbia Gas or some of the other, larger ones. Now, we are working, I actually meet with National Grid once a month, and I meet with Eversource once a month. We're working on some items. First of all, we're working on some items to make them a more customer-centric, customer-focused utility. And they know this, and I think they have actually taken that to heart. So if you find that there's been a hookup challenge, or in years past, they've treated the monopoly just like it was, a monopoly. I don't think that's the case anymore, but I need to know about it. I need to be involved with it. And that's unfortunate. It shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't need to call the executive branch to say, hey, I've got this, this factory in Lynn that Eversource said, you have National Grid. The National Grid said it's going to be 6 months so I can get my hookup. Well, that doesn't work. In 6 months, you could lose a contract, So there's going to be lead times. We know that, but me and my team most times can expedite that, but the cost we most likely cannot assist with. We have the ability, and we have worked with National Grid and Eversource on some products, combined heat and power, possible. There's some things through the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center where they have some products that can reduce the effective cost of power through some products that are built either outside of the building or inside of the building. They do have some costs. The return on investment can vary, but there may be some options to assist with those costs as well. And that would really depend on the amount of power, the amount of consumption that's going to be built. It used to be, when I started back in 1999, we would only get a requisite piece of property. Say a rec comes in, this company wants 100,000 square feet, they're gonna add 100 jobs. We would go and look for that 100,000 square foot building. We never even thought about power. It wasn't even a thought. We'd find 100,000 square feet in the designated search area, and our job was done. Our recs now say we want 100,000 square feet. We want 5 megawatts of power to start with the ability to increase it to 8. We got a rec. It's been about 6 months now, where the out-of-state site selector, and by the way, this was not a data center. We got a rec where they were looking for between 50 and 70 acres, and they wanted more power than the city of Brockton. We got them one site that could do it too. We didn't win that. We're probably better off not winning, but I mean, that's just what some of the products that are being built now are needing they're just so thirsty. That's some life sciences, but not so much in there. Life sciences might want between 5 and 10 megawatts. That will be for a very large plant. But the clean tech and green tech companies, well, their thirst for power is massive, massive. Lynn has power. Lynn has the ability to bring power, which is an extraordinary asset. And that's something that Jim Cowdell has that when we find something that, when we find a company looking, the one thing we tell them about is, we'll get you the power. We'll bring it right down the trunk. Lindley has an extraordinary amount of power. GE has power, you know? So that's one of the assets that this area has. So it's been a really different search, if you will, as we've changed our economic development policies. I don't know where it ends. I really don't. But yesterday there was I shouldn't say our Ways and Means Committee, I should say, the legislature's Ways and Means Committee has hearings going on. And one of the questions was about power. And the governor's answer was, any way we can get it, which caught a lot of legislators off guard. But I think she's evolved to the point where she realizes we're in a situation where we need to increase capacity. Now, I'm not telling you how. I'm not part of that conversation. It's way above my pay grade. But we are working on ways to increase capacity, increase delivery, and certainly increase efficiency.
And,
Jim, yeah, he apologized for not being here in person. He's home with the flu.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it was the best.
and one more question. A few years back, we heard, particularly in Lynn, we heard a lot about opportunities. We don't really hear too much of that anymore, but that really hasn't gone away.
No, I think it's coming back too. I think that this administration in Washington DC, and I'll defer to Tom on this. I actually got an email yesterday about it. That's the only reason I know this. I believe there's going to be some additional opportunity zones coming out of Washington DC. I am not part of the team that's going to be, I won't be working on this at all. Does Lynn have any opportunities or not? I think we do.
There was a lot of lead by.
Yeah,
And back then, we were kind of hopeful that would help expand investment and growth down there. Did a little bit, but not to the extent that we thought it was gonna happen.
it's a federal program, not a state program.
Right.
The only play that the state had at the time was we solicited input from communities. Communities submitted sites to the state. It was our then job to certify to the federal government that these were the ones we wanted to put forward to the federal government. It was the Trump administration at the time. We actually, we said no to absolutely none of them, put them all forward. I do believe they were all approved and they're all on our website. I think there's going to be some additional opportunity zones. At least that's how I understand it. That's not happening at the moment, but based on an email that I was CC'd on last night, it looks like they are potentially looking for some additional OC zones, but I don't have any more information than that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Hello?
I have a question. Peter, for the vacant storefront project, do you guys assist in finding the suitable tenant for the resources you have? Sometimes you will be able to qualify.
No, that's a local. The only, what we do is communities apply for an allocation. It can be up to $50,000. And I should know this, but I don't, whether Lynn has an allocation right now. To be a vacant storefront, it must be vacant for 6 months probably. And then the project has to apply for tax credit support. The tax credits will come the next time the business owner applies for taxes. And assuming that they have a clean certificate of good standing, meaning they paid their taxes, and they don't owe the state money. So assuming they have a Department of Unemployment Assistance certificate, meaning that they're paying their employees if they have a payroll, and they've paid their unemployment taxes. And that, they have a certificate from the Secretary of State's office if they're employed. If they're incorporated, I should say, will issue a certificate to that business owner. And that will allow them to claim their refundable tax credit the next time they pay their taxes, just like any individual who pays, who files taxes that has overpaid, you'll just get a refund from the company. It's like cash. Thank you.
Hey, any other questions? All right, Peter, thank you very much. It was great information. I'll definitely check that website out myself, and if we could get a copy of those slides and we'll Chrissy has present them to everybody who wants to see a copy of it, that'd be great. Thank you everyone for joining us. Join us next month. I'm kind of working on hopefully the new council president, vice president, to be here before we hand this committee off to the next group who's gonna chair it. My co-chair, Glenn Morris, is with us this morning as well. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you in April.
Or March, there's our annual meeting is March 26th at Kowloon's. Tickets available at greatlandchamber.com. Hopefully we'll see you all at the event. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Good job.